Okay, welcome to our Arcview Access program, our CEO Circle, where I'm joined today by Arcview's newest alliance partner, PayQwick. For those of you who don't know, our CEO Circles are a chance to learn more about the ever-changing cannabis industry and reliable resources that make this industry a success, companies like PayQwick. This will be a one-on-one interview with the CEO of PayQwick, Bob Craig, and wow, this man has tremendous experience in banking and fintech. We're going to learn a lot about his story, his uphill battles and successes, because we all have them, and certainly Bob's no exception. But before I begin, let me acquaint you or reacquaint you, as the case may be, with the Arcview Group. The Arcview Group is an event management and financial services firm that leverages its thought leadership through programs like the one we're doing today to facilitate growth in the cannabis, industrial hemp, and psychedelic industries. We're committed to the social mission, the regulatory evolution, as well as the economic growth of these industries, because in our view, all three are codependent. We operate 4 subsidiaries at the Arcview Group. First, Arcview Capital, which is our FINRA registered broker-dealer, providing investment banking services, and is now offering a crowdfunding site. Arcview Consulting, a capable team standing at the ready for those of you who are pursuing cannabis licenses and seeking growth strategy services. Arcview Ventures, our principal investing group that Gene Sullivan and I run, and one of the first funds that we're operating out of is our Arcview Collective Fund. We made 18 investments, we have 78 investors, and we welcome you to reach out to us if you have a company that you would like us to review. And Arcview Events and Experiences, our joint venture with McVeigh Global Meeting and Events, to relaunch and create scale for our in-person event business, manage our digital programming, and operate our Women's Inclusion Network, which provides a platform for women in the industry to network, collaborate, and support each other's participation in all of the industries we touch. And also, that joint venture will provide third-party event management services to operators in the industry, leveraging our brand and contacts. So to succeed at this, we leverage our thought leadership, our series of digital content, our town halls, where we explore the nuances of cannabis programs on a state-by-state basis, our Arcview Access series, where we explore topics that are important to the industry, and these CEO circles, where we explore, as I said, sort of the war and peace stories of C-level executives, entrepreneurs. And again, soon we'll be back producing live events. So that's who we are. And now I'd like to welcome our good friend, Bob Craig. Welcome to our team, Bob. So
thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, great to have you. I've really been looking forward to this. So first, let's get to know you a bit. Give us a minute or two sort of on your professional background.
Sure thing. I actually got my start in the great city of New York, where we are this afternoon, as a junior banker at Chase Manhattan. And so I had a really great start-off career working in the operation side of the wholesale bank, working in the client relationship management, and then actually spent a couple of years in international and a couple of years in small business lending as well. So it was a really great foundation for my banking career that continued with stints at Wells Fargo. And then I went into the entrepreneurial side of the business and began a couple of different companies in the fintech space. One we sold to First Data, spent another 6 years building that out. And then also grew a business inside Online Resources, now ACI. Also did a tour of duty at Fiserv, working in their Biller Solutions group and building out some of the online bill pay and other things as the internet took off for consumer transactions in bill pay. So I've really enjoyed being at the intersection of regulatory change as well as technology advancements, and putting those two together. And now working at PayQwick, it's a culmination of both of those things for the reg tech environment for cannabis, and also the explosive growth that we've seen in the cannabis industry.
Good stuff. You know, what's interesting is sort of as you chronicle that experience, strong sort of bank training early on, many times in sort of that entrepreneurial roller coaster, because you would agree, right? It's a roller coaster. And then sort of living post-acquisition with the acquired partner and making sure the asset and the business you've delivered to them manifests itself in their environments. That's great. I mean, that's a panoply of the spectrum of experience. And I'm sure that that's all made you the great executive that you are today. So you probably had a lot of choices of things to do. And given that impressive background, what drove you specifically to PayQwick?
Yeah, as you say, being in a startup environment is really invigorating. Long hours, and building something really scratching it out of the dirt, as we say. But then, working with solid teams and great clients to build out the revenue. Lots of times to potentially have an acquisition of your business to a larger entity that can provide really long-term and additional capital that's required. And so coming into PayQwick, I joined about 3 years ago, became CEO about 2 years ago, and I really like the platform as a B2B platform for the cannabis industry. It's a very customized platform, specifically combining the regulations that we have in banking, and we call them the alphabet soup of AML, BSA, OFAC, and 19 other things that we need to check on for transactions. And then cannabis regulations as well. So as you know, the evolution of cannabis legalization has included state rights and not universal federal laws and regulations yet. Although there are some federal regulations that we still have to follow, like regarding FinCEN and other federal expectations for national and local banking as well. And so I really like this platform. I like the young team that was there. And since I've been here, we've grown it exponentially, very much in tune with the way that cannabis has grown across the U.S., right? We started in the West and then became more involved in states in the East, in Illinois and Michigan, and states in the Midwest, and then in the East, and we're going into New Jersey and New York as they build out their adult use capabilities right now.
I just have to say, I love that phrase, scratching it out of the dirt. I hope I have license to use that, because that's a great phrase. I can make good use of that one. So thank you. So that's great stuff. So, maybe sort of understanding that entrepreneurial journey, sort of intersection of regulatory, probably big opportunity, lots of problems to solve. So why don't you now tell us a little bit about PayQwick, right? What the company does, where it fits in this sort of Canatech or FinTech landscape, and sort of what its role is.
Yeah, we're definitely right in the center of kind of FinTech, I would say. And the digging it out of the dirt is a lot of cannabis entrepreneurs are used to this as well, right? Because our industry is less than 10 years old in terms of adult use being introduced into the fray here, and banking is following not so closely behind, right? There's been a lot of struggle for folks in the cannabis industry, starting with the cash of the early days, which is still continuing to evolve. At PayQwick, we serve operators, MSOs, as well as banks and credit unions that are looking to serve cannabis operators in this space. Each state has its own specific regulations. We match those specific cannabis regulations and state banking regulations as well. And so we've got this really comprehensive platform that allows operators to deposit money, move money, and interface with their supply chain very, very effectively. And for banks and credit unions that are interested in serving the cannabis operators, we provide them with a full service platform that has all the products and services that cannabis operators need, as well as keeping them away from the risk and cost of full development of a cannabis banking program, which is extremely specialized.
So for cannabis related businesses, you help the financial operations group manage the finance of the company better, right? You help them pay bills easier. You help them see, sort of all of where all of their money is and help them pay bills and sort of get around this notion of state by state silos. And for banks, you help them get into the cannabis business without worrying about risk. Is that sort of a pretty good summary at a high level?
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. We've built a platform that cannabis operators, ancillary businesses, and others that are looking to work within the ecosystem of the cannabis industry, be able to digitize and mobilize their receivables as well as their payables, as you described. And for MSOs on a national basis, we can help them navigate the very state-specific cannabis laws and the movement of cannabis money inside on a state-by-state basis, but still have that enterprise view of their entire franchise across the U.S. And so access to capital, visibility to the funds movement, the ability to interface with their supply chain and pay in a digital way rather than moving bags of cash like the industry started is really where we focus our efforts. And then for banks and credit unions that are very much interested in serving this market as well, because there are communities that are growing up, agricultural communities, as well as urban communities that are evolving in and embracing cannabis in their community. We can help those banks serve those communities very, very simply without building out people, processes, and technology that you need to do this very, very specialized industry processing.
Understood. So for both of those constituents, let's start with MSOs. And what I found with companies that sell services similar to this, there's always one or two things across the value proposition that like immediately resonate, that attracts the most attention. So let's start maybe with MSOs or any kind of marijuana related business. What are the sort of features so that you offer in this platform that kind of immediately create the connect that says, I need this, let's go deep, let me learn, let's get a proposal on the table? What are the things for MSOs? And then separately, what are the things for banks that sort of serve that same function?
Yeah, sure. And for MSOs and for vertically integrated businesses that may be in a single state or thinking of expanding across the US, we simplify that capability for them to have accounts in multiple states, mobilize that money without having 20 or 30 different bank accounts, without needing to log into different systems, without needing to understand how an ACH payment works or how an ACH credit works, or how to connect to a wire transfer system and the limits and sign-offs that may vary across all sorts of financial institutions in the US. With PayQwick, you get a PayQwick account, a PayQwick relationship, and a PayQwick team that's dedicated to understanding exactly what you're trying to achieve, whether you're a cultivator, manufacturer, distributor, dispensary, ancillary business, or all those things, because most of the large MSOs and most of the large vertically integrated businesses have all those aspects of their businesses. Like any business running in the United States today, they need to have access to capital, see what it is, pay their bills, pay their employees, source supplies for their business as well.
I can almost imagine the time drag on a controller in a financial operations group in a company having to deal with all of that headache. I mean, that's got to be a massive time suck. So I imagine when you're pitching them, they're like, oh my God, where have you been? Thank God you're here. My life is going to be so much easier now. So I can see that. On the bank side, when you're going after banks as sort of the second group of potential customers for PayQwick, what are the things that resonate with them first, and that get them excited and that get them to the proposal stage?
Yeah, a lot of banks and credit unions have, as they've noticed their communities growing and adopting cannabis and cannabis businesses that are growing very, very quickly as well, they've come to say, hey, there's an opportunity here for us to grow our balances, to learn more, add members to the credit union, the employees, bank the employees, and those types of things. And those standard programs that the banks and credit unions have always offered to all businesses in their communities continue. And then with the cannabis business, there's a lot more regulation involved. So it's high risk, like we know tobacco, alcohol, firearms, gaming, and other high risk businesses. Also, there are specializations that need to be understood about the cannabis industry as well. You need to understand agriculture. You need some agricultural life cycle, harvest cycles, the supply chain that's involved in not only cultivation but all the way through to distribution and retail operations. And so banks and credit unions that may be very, very committed to this will need to build the people, processes, and technologies to serve that marketplace. We estimate that it costs between $500,000 and $800,000 to build a cannabis banking program, a cannabis business banking program in particular, and then to be able to do the right reporting that you need to do to FinCEN for your SARs and CTRs, managing the risk, understanding the cannabis compliance. It's very, very, very specialized. PayQwick has built all that specialization into our platform, and we've made it easy for banks to outsource that solution to PayQwick, still serve the cannabis market, can take advantage of the deposits if they want to and lend against them, or they can completely outsource it but still serve the community that they're trying to serve for the employees, owners, et cetera, for the product that they already serve those constituencies with. Credit cards, mortgage loans, depository, auto loans, and those kinds of things, where banks traditionally make most of their margin.
So it's sort of a way in which for the banks and credit unions to get a new customer that they can monetize outside of cannabis in many ways by taking, by creating a relationship with cannabis, but taking the risk out of play. And in doing so, does the new client of the bank feel like they're interfacing with two different companies, or just that partner bank's sort of front end as the company that owns the client relationship?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because the opportunity for the bank is to have that flexibility to manage the large relationship and have PayQwick on the backside. So we're managing the technology and the processes to make sure that it stays compliant, and we manage risk for the bank, as you described. If they prefer, they can refer the business customers to us and still maintain the relationship with the people and the owners of the business. So two flavors, maybe it's vanilla and chocolate, but whatever really works best for the bank's structure and how they want to work with the business, own the relationship or share it with PayQwick as well.
So a lot of flexibility there.
A lot of flexibility.
Great.
Depends on the charter of your institution.
Right. So Bob, you've been at PayQwick for 3 years. What does growth look like?
Yeah, growth's been great. As we built out the B2B platform for cannabis operators, multi-state operators, as well as banks and credit unions, in the past several years, we've added more than 1,000 licensees to our platform in nearly a dozen states right now. And so we operate for MSOs as well as operators, and we serve banks and credit unions as well. So the growth has been tremendous. We've done billions of dollars of transactions over that period of time. And we've expanded, like many of us in the cannabis space know, that there's a very, very long days and lots going on and lots changing as we've seen legislative changes across the country.
Before I go back into sort of legislatively and what's sort of going on with more and safe. So just back to growth. So how do you measure that? New client acquisitions, account opening, what are sort of the growth metrics that you track? And has that progressed linearly over 3 years, or has it sort of jumped up a lot this year? Give us a sense for that.
The growth has been in states, also been in number of clients, certain MSOs that have expanded into other states as well. And so, by building relationships with really strong brands that maybe in California today, they'll be expanding from Los Angeles to the rest of the state, but then they're also going into new markets, Florida, Massachusetts, and lots of people that are going into Massachusetts are eyeing New York and New Jersey very carefully as those licenses become more available. And so our metrics are deposits, our metrics are transaction volumes, our metrics include how many licenses we have, how many states we're operating in. And so there's a lot of growth in all of those different ways of managing and looking at our business.
Great, understood. One more question again before we get to the regulatory side, because I think that's a question that should be asked, and I'm interested to hear your answer. But what about strategic partners or any noteworthy integrations? Because look, there's leverage in all of these things for customer acquisition and to sort of increase the worthiness of the platform. Talk us through any strategic relationships or key integrations.
Yeah, great question, and really important part of how many of the banks and credit unions have been working today is partnering with really strong technology where expertise is very important. I'll use couriers as a great example. We have several couriers around the country that are serving us in multiple states. Those are the bonded, insured folks that have the armored cars, the trucks. They understand the regulatory compliance. They understand safety for dispensaries in particular, and protecting the folks that work there. Very, very important that we built that integration with those technology and in this case, labor-related programs so that we can deliver the best for all of our customers, the banks as well as the operators, because cash is a very, very important thing to keep clean and safe. But even more than that, and I'll give another example of data integration, not only on the POS side and some B2C kind of merchant processing capabilities that we offer to our customers through partners as well. But recently, lending has become very, very active for cannabis operators. And so most banks and credit unions are not very interested in actually understanding and managing the risk of this very new industry and enterprises that have a very short time frame of cyclicality to their credit worthiness. Now, there are specific lenders that are coming on, and some are cash flow lenders, some are equipment lenders, some are long-term, some are real estate. We've put together a stable of folks that we have vetted that are very, very interested in lending, providing capital liquidity to this industry. And we find that it's very, very important to our customers now and to the relationships going forward. We offer that partnership to banks and credit unions that may feel a little bit less comfortable leveraging their own capital or lending their own capital into the cannabis space right now.
Got it. All right, let's look a little bit into the future. Although it's passed the House now, what, 5, 6, 7 times and failed at the Senate just as many believe that this is the year that the SAFE Banking Bill becomes a law. If it does, what changes for you? What part of your value proposition decreases, and what will keep clients on your platform?
Yeah, good question, and one that comes up at least as often as they pass this in the House. And you're right; I think it's been at least 6 times so far. But this SAFE Act actually protects banks from seizure by the federal government, which is something that they will feel more comfortable about serving the cannabis marketplace. It also provides FDIC insurance for the deposits, so that's a step up for the federal government in terms of protecting the banks and their assets. So as more banks become comfortable that they can serve this market, they're going to be looking for the people, processes, and technologies to serve it. Like we described before, very, very specialized industry, not only the banking regulations, but you also have to follow cannabis regulations. And then you have to show all the bankers and their examiners that you're following the cannabis regulations, as well as protecting the risk of your bank and or credit union. And so We think that there'll be a lot more banks and credit unions coming in. There already are more coming in, but we still have about 200 banks total that are serving cannabis operators. Many of those are staying a step behind and doing only ancillary or serving only the hemp businesses. When you broaden some of that, and FinCEN just put out some reports, it says it's close to 700 that actually fired SARs and CTRs in the cannabis space for 2021. So not a big number when we have more than 10,000 banks in the country today. So they're going to be looking for technology, people who've been in this business for 5, 6, 7 years, like PayQwick, that can help them navigate this and decide what the right structure for them is to serve the cannabis industry and communities that are adjacent to their footprint.
So just because cannabis becomes legal or safe is in place doesn't mean that the industry doesn't have a propensity to attract illegal activity. We know that there are illegal growers that are, still going to be out there, and banks will get comfort even in a post-safe world or post-federal prohibition, repeal of prohibition world. Will still need a compliance platform like yours to make them comfortable.
They absolutely will. And you brought up a really interesting point, which is illegal production of cannabis and sale of cannabis still exists across the country. And some of the estimates are somewhere, 50% or more of the cannabis sold in the country is still produced and distributed illegally. And so I know that the taxing authorities and most of the operators in the cannabis space are very much looking forward to a safe rollout of and legal rollout of this. I think some of the taxing laws are keeping some of that gray and or black market in business because the cost is very, very high to be in this space. But yes, to your original question, those that are going to be operating in the legal space and are going to be looking for consistent and normalized banking across the United States are going to need these tools and the experience, quite frankly, of being in the business for many, many years and being able to adapt the platform to changes that are going to continue to come with federal legalization, state legalization, and the general evolution of the industry as a whole. We're going to continue to see this evolve in many different directions, regulatory as well as consolidation and growth and potentially international as well.
So it sounds like regulatory progress will serve to actually increase demand for PayQwick rather than decrease demand.
That's right. As more banks become comfortable with the concept of working with cannabis operators, they're going to need that. And I love to say this, the people, processes, and technology that will help them facilitate that. Some will have the wherewithal to build it in-house. Others are going to step carefully into the shallow end of that pool and are going to need partners to help them out like PayQwick.
Gotcha. All right. As we're sort of getting to the end of our interview, any asks that you have of our audience that you'd like to get out and make the ask?
Well, first, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, come meet with our team. We've got some of the best team in the business to help you navigate some of the banking and other challenges that you may have as a cannabis operator, an MSO, or a bank or credit union that's thinking about getting into this business. I think this is a very exciting time for us. It continues to evolve. We love being places where things are changing. We can react. We can help solve problems for individuals and businesses that are operating either on the corner or around the country as well. So that's really what I'd say to the folks that spent time with you and me today.
Great, great. And then any final thoughts that you just want to share to our audience in general?
I'd say, continue to push for normalization of the thought processes around the cannabis as an industry in general. There's a whole lot that we need to fix about the history The social equity programs are a good start for that. The MORE Act is a good start to all that. I said, but we've really got to work as a community together to continue to reinvest, continue to help with the safety and soundness of the ability to work in this industry, and legitimize the kinds of things that everybody's trying to do to protect their families, to protect their careers, and to grow their businesses as well. I know we have more than 500,000 folks in the United States today that are directly spending time like Jeff and I are in the cannabis industry. We're trying to do things to support not only the industry and our careers, but our families, and paying the light bill all comes from this industry. There are another 500,000 people that are doing the same, and so we should make this feel comfortable to everybody. Not a place that you're worried about your personal credit cards or your mortgage or your car finance being reduced because you work in this industry. That's kind of an awful thing for all of us, and a risk we shouldn't have to take.
Understood. Look, good stuff. Bob, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and best of luck to you and all of your efforts with PayQwick. I think you're providing a great service that helps, again, MSOs solve lots of problems that they have in just administering the finance function, and banks who really want to get into this industry but are somewhat reticent. So thank you for doing that. It's great to spend some time with you today, and again, thanks for your time.
Great to be with you in New York today, Jeff, and thanks for all that Arcview does for our industry as well.
Pleasure.